The show opens with a rich businessman named Mubai returning from a business trip. His assistant picks him up, and we learn from their conversation that Mubai has been married for 7 months. However, he doesn't love his wife and wishes to divorce as soon as possible. Shortly after, Mubai arrives at a banquet for an important company meeting. All the shareholders chastise him for not making any progress on his hereditary disease research project. They're also concerned about his father-in-law's corrupt business practices under his name. However, Mubai assures him that he has found a famous doctor for the project and that he will also deal with his shady father-in-law. Later, as Mubai leaves for home, he's approached by his wife, Ming. She asks him about his day and excitedly reveals that she's come to pick him up. However, he's very rude to her and hands her the divorce papers to sign. He's fed up with her father taking advantage of him and believes she's also an accomplice. A distraught Ming pleads with him not to make such rash decisions, but he aggressively pushes her aside, causing her to hit her head on the wall. Because of the blow, Ming begins to remember events from her past that she had forgotten. She recalls how her father Cheng stole her mother's inheritance and caused her death. He then married another woman, and they conspired to seize Ming's property as well. When our heroine discovered their plans, she confronted her father angrily, but he retaliated by pushing her head against the wall, causing her to lose her memory. The greedy man then took advantage of her amnesia and made her sign several documents to transfer her mother's property. He also manipulated her into marrying Mubai by falsely claiming they were lovers. In the following scene, Ming awakens in a hospital bed to see her best friend Sichu sitting in front of her. She confides in him about her father's wrongdoings and vows to reclaim everything that was taken from her. She also wishes to divorce her cold-hearted husband, who has no regard for her well-being. Meanwhile, Mubai is in his office when his assistant tells him that Ming has agreed to the divorce. He's shocked because she was begging him to stay with him not that long ago. Mubai becomes even more perplexed when he discovers that she doesn't want any money or property. He can't believe that she would leave such a perfect man, so he refuses to sign the divorce papers for the time being. After Ming is discharged from the hospital, she immediately heads home and starts packing her belongings. During this, Mubai approaches her and asks if she's playing hard to gain his attention. Our heroine responds that she doesn't care about him and demands that he sign the papers immediately. However, he surprises her by pulling her close and suddenly kissing her. Pissed, Ming slaps him hard and storms off. Sometime later, she arrives at her late mother's house, where her evil parents currently reside. Stepmom pretends to be sweet and suggests she reconcile with Mubai, as he's very wealthy. But her stepsister Ru begins to insult her and acts as if she's the true heiress. An enraged Ming responds by saying that this is her mother's house and she'll kick everyone out soon. She also promises to take back everything that rightfully belongs to her. Hearing this, Cheng loses his shit and hurls a glass at her face. But before it can reach her, somebody abruptly grabs it. Turns out to be none other than our hero, Mubai. He declares that she's his wife and he will not tolerate anyone treating her this way. He then leads Ming outside and tries to console her, but she tells him to stop pretending because they're now alone. She asks him to sign the divorce papers, but he says he's changed his mind. However, Ming confidently declares that she has 10,000 ways to get him to sign. Later that night, Mubai learns that his wife is staying at Sichu's hotel, which makes him jealous. He can't sleep thinking about her, so he decides to go there. In the meantime, Ming is drinking with Sichu and quickly becomes drunk. He then decides to carry her to her room because she's unable to go on her own. However, as they enter the elevator, Mubai appears and asks Sichu to hand her over to him. He asserts that he's still her husband and threatens to call the police if Sichu refuses to comply. Left with no choice, the latter allows him to take her away. The next morning when Ming wakes up, she's shocked to find Mubai sleeping next to her and realizes she's wearing different clothes. She believes he did something inappropriate and slaps him immediately. However, he explains that she vomited on herself, so he had to change her clothes. He recalls how flirtatious she was last night and leans in to kiss her. Their romantic moment is suddenly interrupted by a call from his assistant. Mubai is informed that the president of a rival company intends to sign an agreement with the renowned scientist, Dr. Lon Hentz, so they have to track down this doctor before their competitor can finalize the agreement. In the following scene, Ming visits her uncle, who is currently lying in a hospital bed. She states that she will reclaim everything that belongs to them. Afterward, she goes to her mother's former company, which is a research institute. Ming meets with the dean and expresses her desire to come back. She's worried that if the institute falls into her father's hands, it will be ruined. The dean immediately agrees to support her against Cheng if she can complete the genetic research her mother started. Ming is pleased to hear this, and she promises that she will not let him down. Sometime later, Mubai and his assistant arrive at the same institute looking for the famous doctor. They see their competitor Shatai approaching Ming and addressing her as Dr. Lon. Mubai is shocked to discover that the person he has been desperately looking for is none other than his wife. Meanwhile, Shatai has a good conversation with Ming about their potential collaboration. Our hero also wants to work with her, but his assistant says his chances are slim because his wife hates him. Later, Mubai approaches her and asks why she didn't tell him about this sooner. He emphasizes how important this deal is for the future of his company. However, Ming responds rudely, saying he shouldn't care who she is because they're going to get divorced anyway. It's then revealed that her father forbade her from revealing her true identity to the world, fearing she would become more successful. A few days later, Mubai's assistant informs him of Ming's amnesia, which he was unaware of. Our hero is shocked when he realizes that she married him only because her father lied to her about their relationship. Therefore, he decides that he will no longer trap her in this marriage and agrees to divorce her. In the next scene, the couple arrives at the government office for divorce registration. They discover that even if they sign the papers now, they can't finalize their divorce immediately. Our heroine is frustrated because if Mubai changes his mind within 30 days, they won't be able to proceed with the divorce. Days later, Ming attends a press conference to announce her collaboration with Shatai's company. The first thing the reporters ask her is about her marriage to Mubai and why she's not working with his company. Before she can come up with a response, our hero arrives at the scene. He claims that they have had some disagreements in the past and he has come to seek forgiveness. He then gives her a diamond ring and offers her some exclusive platinum cards. Seeing this, Ming is deeply embarrassed, so she takes him away. She claims that she no longer hates him and will consider working with him. However, she advises him not to do such stupid things in the future. Mubai is delighted upon hearing this, as for the first time in weeks, she has talked to him politely. One day, Ming and Sichu are at the institute when they suspect someone is spying on them. Turns out to be Mubai, who wants to surprise her with a huge diamond. However, she shows no interest in him and proceeds to leave. Outside, the two men begin to argue about who will take her home. They act so childish that Ming disregards them and boards a bus. But the men follow her there as well. Mubai has never taken a bus before and tries to pay with his platinum card. It's obviously not accepted, so Ming ends up paying the fare. When they get off the bus, they notice several snack stalls nearby. The men don't let our poor heroine breathe as they bring her ice cream, cakes, and other treats. Later, when she and Sichu attempt to take a picture, a jealous Mubai intervenes and photobombs them. The next day, he cuts Sichu out of the group photo and places it on his desk. A month later, the couple's divorce is finalized, which causes Mubai great distress. He then learns from his assistant that Cheng is selling all properties under his name. The cunning man wants to make enough money to buy a majority stake in the research institute and kick Ming out. The revelation makes Mubai really worried, and even though she's no longer his wife, he decides to help her. In the following scene, Cheng is holding a shareholder meeting to keep his position as CEO of the company. As he lists his accomplishments and strengths, our heroine suddenly arrives with some important information. She says that he can't take up the position because he's a scammer. He also cheated on his first wife and had a child with someone else. However, Cheng denies Ru being his daughter and claims that the affair only started after his wife passed away. The voting soon begins, and all the shareholders carefully place their votes. They're certain that Cheng is going to emerge victorious because of his connections. However, when the results are out, he ends up having equal votes with his daughter. This puts everyone in a tough position, as they're unsure what to do. Just then, Mubai enters the room with some shocking information. He has actually purchased a large number of the company's shares. He then votes in favor of his ex-wife, ensuring her position as the company's CEO. In the aftermath of this election, Ming confronts Cheng about her mother's death. She accuses him of killing her deliberately to acquire her property. This asshole tries to deny the allegations, but the dean steps up and supports Ming. He's certain that Cheng is responsible for his wife's death and suggests further investigation into the matter. Hearing this, Cheng gets enraged and throws a glass at his daughter. Mubai once again rushes to protect her, but the glass breaks on his head, knocking him out. He awakens a few hours later in the hospital with his ex-wife by his side. Seeing her so worried about him, Mubai pretends to be in a lot of pain. She then thanks him for his earlier support and for rushing to protect her. Ming says that she's willing to collaborate with his company in appreciation for what he did. However, Mubai clarifies that he didn't do it for his company, but rather to win her heart. He asks for a chance to pursue her, which leaves Ming speechless. Meanwhile, we learn that Cheng has taken on significant debt to purchase shares in the Research Institute. Many creditors are now chasing him, putting him in a dire situation. His wife and daughter have also abandoned him as they don't want to go through the struggle. To make the situation worse, Cheng appears to have a serious illness that causes him to frequently cough up blood. One evening, he goes to the hospital for a checkup and discovers that he has a tumor in his lung. The doctor insists on immediate surgery, but he doesn't have the money. Later, Ming appears at a press conference where she announces her collaboration with Mubai's company. Just when everything's going well, Cheng suddenly shows up and asks for money. He says that he's seriously ill and requires immediate surgery. However, Ming doesn't believe him, and she recalls all the times he scammed her for money. She then prepares to leave, but the old man faints on the spot. This finally makes her realize that he's not lying, so she immediately arranges for his surgery to proceed. Later, she learns about her father's actual condition and is devastated. She confides in Mubai that she used to fear Mother's Day because she didn't have a mother. Now she's concerned about Father's Day, not knowing when her father will be gone from her life. Our hero responds by assuring her that Mom is watching over from above and is proud of what she's become. He also apologizes for what happened in the past and promises to take care of her from now on. This deeply touches Ming, and it seems that she has started to develop feelings for him as well. Elsewhere, Shatai learns of Ming's collaboration with Mu Bai, which frustrates him. He can't believe that his lucrative deal is once again being snatched by his arch-rival. At this point, we discover that Shatai is none other than Sichu's older brother. Knowing that the latter has a crush on Ming, he begins manipulating him. He claims that if Sichu stays idle like this, she will be lost forever. In the next scene, Ming is informed that there's an emergency in the lab as something has gone wrong. Worried, she rushes to the location, only to find Sichu waiting for her with flowers. He finally gathers his courage and confesses his feelings to her. He also asks her to be his girlfriend, promising to treat her like a princess. However, Ming coldly rejects him, saying she's always seen him as a younger brother. She also reveals that she's in love with Mu Bai and wants to be with him. Sichu is clearly heartbroken by her words, but he respects her decision and agrees to back off. Meanwhile, Cheng's health takes a turn for the worse, so Ming rushes to the hospital to see him. She receives a letter from her father, which he left before going into surgery. In the letter, he apologizes for the harm he caused to Ming and her mother. He admits that while he didn't directly murder her mother, he destroyed all of her experiments because he was jealous of her achievements. Our heroine is reduced to tears by her dad's honesty, as it's the first time he's ever apologized to her. She used to resent Cheng for his selfish nature, but now that he's dying, she feels bad for him. Fortunately, the doctor informs her that the surgery was successful, bringing her great relief. Later, she meets with Mu Bai and tells him that she's decided to forgive her father. She also mentions that Sichu recently proposed to her, which makes him nervous. However, Ming reveals that she rejected him because she loves Mu Bai and wants to be with him. Our hero is overjoyed to hear this, so he picks her up and begins to celebrate. In the meantime, Shatai begins plotting something sinister against Ming and her institute. He does a bit of research and finds her uncle's hospital room. He then disguises himself as a nurse and injects a drug that will prevent the sick guy from waking up. Days later, Shatai announces at a press conference that Ming's mother signed a patent transfer agreement with his company years ago. This means the company owns everything produced by the Research Institute. Shatai also claims he has proof and brings out the documents to back up his claim. But just when his plan is about to succeed, Ming's uncle shows up in a wheelchair. Turns out Sichu had already informed the couple about his brother's evil plot. Because of this, they were able to treat the uncle in time before the drug could cause any real damage. The uncle then reveals that he and his late sister worked together at the institute. She never made any deal with Shatai, and the company was solely hers. Following the revelation, Mu Bai plays an audio recording in which Cheng admits that he destroyed his wife's experiments out of jealousy. He also admits that he tricked her into signing the document by accepting a bribe from Shatai. Hearing this, everyone at the press conference is stunned. Shatai is labeled a fraud and receives significant backlash online. As a result, his company goes bankrupt within a few weeks. Meanwhile, the lovebirds return to their normal lives and continue working together. Everything seems to be going well until one night when Ming is alone in her lab. Shatai suddenly appears with a knife, blaming her for his downfall. He threatens to kill her unless she provides exclusive data about her company. Fortunately, our hero arrives at that moment and the two engage in a fight. They go back and forth for a while, and in the end, Mu Bai manages to knock him out. However, seconds later, he also loses consciousness due to his injuries. The next day, he wakes up in the hospital with Ming by his side. Mu Bai once again decides to prank her by pretending he lost his memory. When he takes it too far, she begins to cry while desperately claiming that she's his wife. This melts our hero's heart, and he finally drops his act. Overwhelmed with emotions, the two then hug each other tightly and break down in tears. In the final scene, we see our lovebirds getting married again. Mu Bai plays a special video dedicated to Ming, stating that marrying her was the best decision of his life. The couple then kiss each other sweetly, bringing the drama to an end.